Nottingham Forest have survived in the Premier League. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yesterday, of course, saw Nottingham Forest beat Arsenal by a goal to nil, and that obviously meant that Manchester City went on to become Premier League champions. That is done, dusted, official, confirmed. There is no changing that. City obviously were crowned the Premier League champions yesterday without even kicking a ball after Arsenal yet again were beaten. This time, like I say, by Nottingham Forest. The result of that was obviously everyone focusing on Manchester City and the Premier League title race. But what went a little bit under the radar and a little bit overlooked and overshadowed yesterday was the fact that Nottingham Forest did survive in their first season back in the Premier League, in England's top flight division. So I thought I might as well give them a bit of a spotlight and a bit of a looking at as to how they survived this season and why I admire that the way that they survived and how they did things a little differently to the other teams around them. But before we go any further in talking all about Nottingham Forest, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And I also encourage you to get involved in the comment section as well. How did you see Forest seasons going? Was it good from your point of view? Bad? Do you think it's sustainable? Do you think they'll go on to improve next season or do the same again in the following campaigns? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on Nottingham Forest and everything else in between down below in the comment section. But for now, let's get into the video. First and foremost, congratulations to Nottingham Forest surviving in the Premier League. I think a lot of people may have had them to survive, although it would have been a massive uphill struggle for them. I personally did as well. I think I made a couple of videos on Forest at the beginning of the season saying that I admire what they've done in the Championship. Finally, a big club with a lot of history like Forest being back in the Premier League is not only good for them, but is also good for the Premier League and good for the English football pyramid and everything along those lines. And obviously, I stand by that. And I think it's been a fantastic achievement by Steve Cooper and his side to obviously maintain their Premier League status and keep their heads above water for the season, especially with the kind of trials and issues and obstacles that they've had to overcome throughout the entirety of this campaign. Personally, I think Steve Cooper should be mentioned as one of the managers of the season. I don't think that you can only just pick one because I think it's a little bit unfair because obviously of what Pep Guardiola is doing in Manchester City. But Steve Cooper deserves special recognition as well, the same way Eddie Howe does at Newcastle for getting them very close at the time of recording to obviously confirming their Champions League status for next season. Eric Ten Hag at Manchester United is in the same boat there. You also look at the way that De Zerbi's come in at Brighton, Unai Emery's come in at Aston Villa, Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth. These Marco Silva at Fulham, the newly promoted sides that obviously haven't actually stayed up, and I think this is like the first time in a while that or ever in fact maybe, that all three newly promoted sides have actually maintained their Premier League status for the following season. I think it's been an incredible achievement by all three of these teams, and it shows you, in my opinion, that the gap between the Championship and at least the lower half of the Premier League, shall we say, is slowly but surely closing, in my opinion. So I think that's a very good achievement from them, and it shows you that whoever comes up from the next campaign, we already know that Burnley and Sheffield United are. We have there is the possibility of a team like Luton Town coming up, which could be very intriguing. Don't take them for granted. Simply put, don't take them for granted. For me, Nottingham Forest deserve a huge amount of credit for this season. Staying up is one thing, but doing it the way that they did was even better, in my opinion. Take you back to the beginning of the season. It was kind of hit and miss start. It was kind of a bit of an inconsistent start. And then there was talk about Forest getting rid of Steve Cooper. Obviously, what had happened in the transfer window before that was they had to bring in an entire new squad. Forest had a lot of players that were on loan, had a lot of players that contracts expired, had a lot of players that wanted to leave. It was a whole mixture of those kind of three elements combining to make up their entire makeshift squad at that point. And they couldn't maintain it. So they had to go out and spend lots of money. They had to go out and spend lots of money, and they had to go out and spend lots and bring in an entire new squad of players with like maybe one or two exceptions. And they did that. And it was smart business in my opinion, because they had to go out and spend a lot in terms of quantity and in terms of hopefully quality. But there were smart decisions. There were players that had a bit of experience about them. You look at the likes of Dean Henderson in goal, Nico Williams, Jesse Lingard. All of them seem smart decisions that not only fit well with the way that Steve Cooper liked to play, but also had a bit of Premier League experience about them. There were also a few gambles in there as well. There were also a few that looked good on paper, but it was going to be a question of whether they could replicate that kind of form that they were showing at their previous club at their new club of Forest. I'm talking the likes of Taiwo Awoniyi. I rated him when he went to when obviously he came over from Forest. I looked at what he was doing in the Bundesliga at that point. He looked a very good player, and I thought that could be a very underrated piece of business by Steve Cooper and his club. And that's how it turned out to be, because it's Awoniyi's goals at the back end of the season that have obviously helped Forest maintain their Premier League status. He got a few against Southampton. He got the winning goal yesterday against Arsenal. He's really shone brightly at the back end of this season, and obviously Forest fans will be hoping that long continues. And there was also Morgan Gibbs-White, of course, who has been a pretty big live wire in an attacking sense for the club. Maybe he needs to improve more on his attacking output, but at the same time, he has done extremely well, and I think I think as far as creating chances goes, I think he's one of the best. One of the best, especially in the lower league. So there is stuff there to be built upon for next season. But when you combine all of these players together, and you've got to try and gel about 20 to 25 different new players in the same team very quickly, and you've got to try and hit the ground running in a battle in the Premier League that you're maybe not favoured to win, you're maybe favoured to go down back to the Championship. It was no easy task for the club or for Steve Cooper to try and get that. And obviously at the beginning of the season there was talk about Forest sacking Steve Cooper, and I remember saying in a video I did about it, this would be a stupid decision because you've just brought in 20 to 25 new players. This is the manager that you stuck by to get you out of the Championship. This is the guy that managed to get you out of the Championship and into the Premier League, despite you obviously losing your first 7 to 8 games in the Championship last season. This was a manager who came in, had to work with what he had at his disposal at the time. No time to change it, no time to really work with it. He just had to try and hit the ground running, and he did that. And again, he had to try and redo that in the Premier League with an entire new squad. And I actually applaud Forest for doing something that no one else around them did. Stuck with their manager. They stuck with Steve Cooper. The fans were on board. They understood the situation, I think. They understood the kind of challenges that the club were facing in terms of bringing in a new squad, and how it is unlikely that they're all going to gel instantaneously. So I do applaud the fans for sticking by him and being on board. I do applaud the club for sticking by Steve Cooper and doing something that no other bottom side did, because it seemed like everybody at some point in that bottom half of the table rolled the dice at some point to try and get a new manager. Southampton went through about 3 different ones. Leeds obviously went through a couple. Leicester obviously recently sacked Brendan Rodgers. Crystal Palace sacked Patrick Vieira. Wolves went through a couple, I think. Like Everton obviously sacked Frank Lampard. Like there was this entire thing about rolling the dice, doing a gamble on a new manager, and Forest could have easily done that at any point. Like they would, obviously it's their club and everything. Like it could have easily happened at any point, but I actually applaud them for sticking by him and understanding the bigger picture, so to speak, understanding the task at hand, shall we say, understanding all of that aspect of obviously what was going into their Premier League season, because I don't think a lot of owners would. I don't think a lot of clubs would have understood it, would have seen that bigger picture. They would have basically seen results and basically said, these aren't good enough, he clearly isn't the right man, let's bring in someone else to obviously help try and maintain our Premier League status. And it might not have worked. The fact that obviously it was Cooper, the fact that obviously the fans were on board, and believe me, the fans were excellent all season. Like, I lived in Nottingham, and I knew how much it meant to the fans to get promoted. I knew how much it means for their club every single year that I've been there. And then just the atmosphere and the buzz that obviously being in the Premier League created from the moment that they were promoted last season in the playoffs to obviously going through to each and every single Premier League game, home or away. The buzz that the fan base creates is incredible. The buzz that it created was amazing. And those fans have been absolutely electric all season. Home or away, it didn't matter. Like, they honestly have been some of the best fans in the Premier League this season. And they've been absolutely incredible. So everybody deserves to take credit, and everybody has been fantastic as far as what I'm concerned for Forest. Whether it be the manager, whether it be the club for sticking by him and backing him, or whether it be the fans. And of course the players as well take full credit for what they've managed to achieve on the pitch. It's not been easy. They've had to chop and change a few things, and they've had to deal with obviously the usual sort of issues that plague a season. Plenty of injuries, awkward moments in terms of results. But if you look at obviously the way that they went about their business, I said at the beginning of the season, their home form is going to get them through. At least this first year, their home form is going to get them through. And that is exactly what happened. Their home form was incredible. And it's what got them through, because for a bottom half team, their home form was obviously the main reason they stayed up. Their away form, I think, is either the worst or one of the worst now in the division. But it was their home form that saw them through, and I feel like if they can build upon that for next season, if they can continue to make the City Ground a fortress, because let's face it, beating Arsenal yesterday at home, they beat Liverpool at home, they took points off Manchester City at home as well. If they can continue to build up that fortress at home and continue to improve upon an away form that, let's face it, doesn't seem to can't really get any worse, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that they can't survive again next season. Obviously, they will need to improve and beef up their squad a little bit. Obviously, the goalkeeping situation needs to be addressed. Dean Henderson obviously was out for the second half of the season. They brought in Keylor Navas, of all players, on loan. But both goalkeepers were on loan anyway. So that's going to be interesting to see where they go with the goalkeeping situation. Do they try and sign one of them? Do they obviously go and look somewhere else? That could be interesting. Could be interesting to see where that goes. A couple of players obviously may want to leave. A couple of players maybe looking a little bit higher in terms of maybe a Premier League move. Jesse Lingard obviously won't be there next season probably. A couple of other players may want to be rotated around. So it's going to be another interesting summer as far as what Nottingham Forest are concerned. And like I say, I think if they can keep the manager in place, if they can keep the majority of their players in base, now that they've had a year to kind of bed in and to gel, maybe they can look to improve upon the kind of weaknesses of this season and look to maintain their Premier League status for another campaign. I think it can easily be done for them. I think they've done brilliantly this season. And I think, again, if you look at next season, if they maintain the level of support, if they obviously maintain their home form being good, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Nottingham Forest can survive another year. And I'm kind of happy for them. I do have a soft spot for Forest, obviously being from the city and everything. So I am really happy for them. I'm really happy that they managed to survive in the Premier League, and I think it's good for the Premier League as well. Like I say, this is a club with a lot of history, a lot of support, and a big club, I guess you'd say, that is a sort of sleeping giant, I guess you'd say. And I think they are heading in the right direction. How far that direction can take them, I'm not 100% sure on that. But for what it is worth right now, enjoy it for what it is. They've maintained their Premier League status, and they've been brilliant all season. And special praise goes to everybody at that club for all of the reasons that I put in this video. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Nottingham Forest season, this campaign? What do you make of the good, the bad, the ugly? Anything else to go along with Steve Cooper, the players, the fans, the manager, the club, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure will make for interesting and great reading down below in the comments section, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video.